Hello, and welcome to Lit Lens, the podcast where we take a closer look at literature that stirs the soul and sharpens the mind. I'm your host, Icy, and today we're diving into the vibrant world of Anglo-American contemporary literature. Joining me are two esteemed experts in the field, Stacy, professor of modern literature and author of The Digital Muse, and Lavinda, literary critic and editor at the Narrative Times. Welcome to the show, Stacy and Lavinda.
Thanks for having us, Icy. I'm thrilled to be here.
Always a pleasure to talk about books, Icy. Let's dive in, shall we?
Absolutely. Today, we're focusing on how contemporary literature invites readers to deeper reflection, particularly those who might already be well-read and eager to explore significant themes. And to anchor our discussion, we'll be looking closely at Alexander Weinstein's story, Openness. But before we get into that, let's start with the broader landscape. Stacy, how would you describe the core characteristics of Anglo-American contemporary literature?
Contemporary Anglo-American literature is as varied as it is compelling. What unites much of it is a focus on the individual in an increasingly interconnected world. These works often explore identity, technology, and morality, grappling with how modern realities shape the human experience. There's also a strong emphasis on innovation in form and storytelling, reflecting the fractured, fast-paced world we live in. For instance, the blending of genres and experimentation with narrative structures create a sense of unpredictability that mirrors the complexities of modern life.
Yeah, I'd add that contemporary literature is also incredibly self-aware. Authors often write with a keen sense of their audience, and they're weaving in commentary on social and political dynamics. And I feel like it's not just about the story. It's more about engaging with the reader on multiple levels. And I feel like most importantly, there's an openness, like pun intended, to ambiguity and unresolved questions, which I personally think that it challenges more towards the readers to think critically and engage very deeply. These works to encourage readers to reflect on their own roles within society and the broader human conditions, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect segue into Weinstein's Openness, which feels like a microcosm of these ideas. Lavinda, for listeners who haven't read the story, could you give a quick overview?
Yeah, of course. So, Openness is a speculative story that imagines a world where people use advanced technology to share their innermost thoughts and memories instantly. So the protagonist, who's grappling with loneliness and heartbreak, he navigates the complications of his intimacy in this hyper-transparent society. I feel like it's poignant, thought-provoking, and a little unsettling. And what really strikes me is how Weinstein uses this premise to explore the fragility of human relationships and the paradoxical ways technology can both connect and alienate us.
Exactly. By the way, Stacy, what stood out to you about this story?
Okay, so Weinstein's use of technology as a metaphor for vulnerability is brilliant. The story asks, what does it mean to truly connect with someone, and at what costs? The protagonist's struggles highlight the paradox of our age. We are more connected than ever, but often feel profoundly isolated. I also loved how the story's tone oscillates between hope and despair, reflecting the tension many of us feel about technology's role in our lives. Additionally, Weinstein's subtle commentary on consent and the ethics of transparency added layers to depth that reward careful readers.
Right, and the narrative structure really mirrors this complexity. So the short and sharp interactions really contrasts with moments of introspection, creating a rhythm that keeps the readers off balance, but in a good way. It's also a masterclass in pacing and mood. So the moments of discomfort and unease are intentional, and it forces the reader to question their own assumptions about communication and also intimacy.
All right, now let's delve deeper into some of the dystopian aspects Weinstein explores. Stacy, how does the digital dystopian element shape the story's world and themes?
The digital dystopian aspect is central to the story's tension. In Openness, technology is both a tool and a trap. The constant sharing of thoughts and memories turn what should be private moments into public commodities. This creates a world when authenticity is commodified and personal boundaries are non-existent. Weinstein uses this backdrop to critique how technology, though intended to bring us closer, can actually erode trust and intimacy. It's a chilling reflection of our own digital age, where social media and surveillance blur the lines between public and private.
And I'll also say that the technology in the story amplifies societal pressures. So there's like a subtle but sharp critique of how the need for openness becomes a new form of conformity, and people are judged not just by what they share, but by how much they share. It's a commentary on the performative nature of online personas and the pressure to curate every aspect of one's identity for public consumption. And the result is a society where individuality is suffocated by the relentless demand for transparency.
Fascinating. Now let's talk about another layer, the genetically determined social hierarchy. Lavinda, how does this element deepen the story's critique of societal structures?
Well, the genetically determined social hierarchy in Openness reflects a broader commentary on privilege and inequity. So, by introducing a system where genetics dictates status, Weinstein draws attention to the ways in which society often values people based on arbitrary or inherited traits. And this creates a rigid structure that mirrors real-world systems of inequality, such as class or race and even access to technology. And it's a powerful metaphor for how technology and societal systems can reinforce existing disparities rather than dismantling them.
Absolutely. This aspect also raises questions about agency and autonomy. If one's place in society is predetermined, what room is left for individuality or resistance? Weinstein uses this to explore themes of predestination versus free will, a topic that resonates deeply in discussions about the role of algorithms and AI in shaping human lives today.
Ooh, that's a perfect segue into the media horror aspect. Lavinda, how does Weinstein incorporate this into the narrative?
The media horror in Openness comes through the relentless exposure of personal lives. There's a pervasive sense that no thought or memory is safe from scrutiny. This taps into a very modern fear where the idea of living under constant surveillance, and Weinstein captures the anxiety of being watched, being judged, and potentially exploited by unseen forces. It's a reflection of our own media-saturated culture, where the line between information and exploitation often blurs.
These are such profound insights. Any final thoughts on Openness?
It's a story that stays with you long after you've finished it. Weinstein's ability to weave profound themes into such a concise narrative is masterful. It is the kind of story that grows richer with each rereading.
I couldn't agree more. It's a poignant reminder of the complexities of our modern world and a call to reflect on the kind of connections we want to nurture.
Oh, wow, wonderful. Thank you both for such an enlightening discussion. And to our listeners, we hope this episode inspires you to dive into Openness and other works of contemporary literature. Thank you, Stacy and Lavinda, for joining me today.
My pleasure, Icy.
Always a joy. Thanks, Icy.
And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to Lit Lens. Until next time, keep reading, keep reflecting, and keep exploring the world through literature.